So I went through your chakras and did the Reiki the other day, and like I said I would, I wrote down all the stuff that was coming up in each chakra, and I'll read it back to you now and show you just the corresponding crystals as usual. And okay, we're gonna start with the root chakra. Immediately I felt a lot of anxiety coming up there, actually. Hard to breathe. And like, it's kind of an effort to ground yourself right now. And it's important to try to be meditative, get your breathing back under control, not get yourself worked up. Just over worrying about how everything's going to go and where everything's going to fall. I also felt very, very tired arms. And that could be physical, like from the gym or something, like if you've actually literally been straining your arms. But I feel like it's also carrying a lot at once, juggling a lot of things. With everything you want to do, everything you're working on, it just feels really worn down sometimes from too much. And also, I think some of that anxiety I was immediately feeling could be job related, because you're not quite settled in it yet. It's still in its way new to you. And, there's pressure maybe to prove yourself because, you're doing something for yourself right now. And, it's scary to get into a new thing, not knowing how it's going to work out, where it's going. And I feel like stuff like this, watching a video like this, it's actually good for you in your root chakra because it's soothing, it's grounding, kind of recalibrates, calms the nerves. And you should be trying to settle down that energy anyway. Also think that, kind of a wound in the chakra right now could be what you said about your grandmother being sick, because, I see it's like she's always been kind of like a home base for you. And she attaches kind of energetically to you at the root, which deals with home and family. So that could be another anxiety issue coming up there. And I still feel that attachment's very strong and positive. I don't know why this is, but, thinking on this chakra, I got all this rib pain. I don't know if your ribs hurt, if you had an injury in the last while. I really don't know what that was. But maybe that makes sense to you. Okay, next we'll do the sacral chakra. I'm kind of going to blend in with the candle behind it. Actually, the sacral chakra, immediately I felt like this nausea shooting up and down. And that's just old energy stuck at that energetic point. And, sometimes something just sort of lies dormant for a while. And then it kind of gets knocked loose. And, you think about it more, you feel it more. It starts kind of acting up in the system. So I felt that kind of shooting up and down. Sort of antsy, on edge, volatile feeling. And, I think that's old, but, and it can come from unstable relationships and situations, like a lack of emotional comfort. And I think that's just, a past energy that's being knocked loose right now and that you're still working to get out of your system. So it's good to release whatever way you can, that energy. Remember that that's not your current reality. You know, you may have physically removed the situation that was causing those emotions, but it can still stick around in the mind and in the body. And ideally, eventually, you resolve those feelings in the way that you feel matches your outward reality. Okay, the next part, I don't say just as a joke, but because it's coming up. Because the sacral chakra rules many things, among those things, sexuality. And it was coming up that, you know, when those old negative emotions come up, that like any sort of positive sexual experience can actually soothe this chakra and release the old energy. Doesn't have to be with another person, but anything that just has a good association and makes you feel good in the moment and creates that energetic release. And that, you know, as long as it's positive, you know, like sexual kind of activity and thoughts are actually good for you, and they're not just a waste of time or something to feel guilty about. They can actually cleanse the energy and recharge the sacral chakra, which deals with like pleasure and joy, creation. It would also be good for you in the chakra to feel more control in your relationships with other people. You know, able to set boundaries, communicate, feel emotionally in control around them or when speaking to people. And it's really important that you get respect, feel respected by other people, in order not to bring anxiety and, you know, those negative, nauseous sort of feelings into the chakra. And I feel like there's already been improvement there. More joy and control. And, you know, pursuing anything that makes you genuinely happy will help you move on from negativity. So, you know, now's the time to open up to positivity, positive connections. And that will also help you in work, because it'll just cause an increase in general vitality and self-confidence. And whenever you clear the energy relating to one thing, you know, it really opens up all areas and brings that positivity into every, you know, aspect of life and every representation of the chakra. And I feel that sacral energy is actually rising now. It's getting stronger, heating up, like there's big force kind of building, charging. So I see more positivity coming out of that area. And now and in the future. So now we're going to look at the solar plexus. Again, I see there's amazing energy coming in the spring, the summer. It's just going to keep growing as the seasons change. And, you know, when I started writing that down, I felt the pain, like, over where your appendicitis scar would be. And there's kind of an interesting message coming up around that. You know, I'm feeling that. It says, because you're coming into a time of rebirth and positive energy that's similar to where you were in the time of life when you had your appendix out. I actually remember this. It was in December 2015. If you don't remember that, trust me. Because I remember everything. So it says that actually that 2015-2016 time was actually a more energetically positive time in your life. It's actually maybe the last time you were at kind of a high, really moving up, more optimism, kind of really a goal of where you wanted to go and feeling, I think, more positive about things. Even if you don't remember it that way, that's just what I'm being told is true. And that around the time that you got that surgery, it says you might not have noticed, but it was actually a very kind of positive event on a spiritual level that I'm sure you're not aware of. But it says good things actually happened around that time and kind of followed that surgery in the following few weeks or couple months. And that there was positive presence around you at the time. And it was actually kind of a good luck thing. And the whole time that surgery was healing, it was actually sort of a positive break for you. And better things happened or lined up in the little while that followed it. Which, if you think back now, I don't know if anything like that comes to mind or not. But that's what I'm seeing. Like there's a strong, almost kind of like spirit angel presence around you. And sort of attach itself to you over that wound. Anyway, so the solar plexus deals with work and what you do. And I'm getting that, a lack of ease right now with the acting stuff is probably due to a focus on real estate. And it's just not the time right now, and that doesn't mean that if you do something other than acting, that the acting thing won't work out. It's more that, kind of is more of an unsettled energy where, subconsciously you don't have the space for both to take off right now at the same time. And, deep down you're craving more of a balance of figuring things out one thing at a time before something really big and new comes along. When I was writing that down, I felt like got like a poke in the head. And I saw it's like your great-grandfather, the one I told you about, wanted me to tell you that he's really proud of you for focusing on this new career and taking that initiative. Anyway, with the acting and the real estate thing, as you keep moving forward and your path and your desires with work become clearer, it's going to make room for other things. When you feel really confident in, knowing what balance you want with all your interests, everything you're working on, those paths are all going to clear. And you just need to take the time to really adjust and sink into these things and on a conscious and subconscious level and really know what you want to prioritize and know what you want and feel that you have the space to handle everything at once. So it says, if you're still really set on the acting thing later this year, then it's going to start coming easier again as everything becomes clearer, probably in fall. I wrote down October. Maybe that's going to really be a big shift for you with the acting thing if you decide that's still something you really want to focus on. This isn't a negative thing. This is just realignment. It's an adjustment phase you're going through right now for the next part of this year. And it's not negative, it's just necessary. It's like this whole year you're going to figure out where everything in your life goes, and it'll balance your energy, settle your questions, and, this chakra really deals with sense of self. and you're gonna feel more comfortable in your skin by the end of this year. You know, every time I kind of focus on the chakra for you lately, it's like I always get a really positive feeling, like there's a high energy that's building, and this everything that this chakra deals with, those areas are where you're most excited to make improvements and to move forward. And this chakra that deals with work and purpose, sense of self, sociability, it's really how people see you, how you see yourself, how you put yourself out there, what you really focus on and get done. And I just see really positive things coming forward, so don't take any like career setbacks in any aspect in a negative way, because it's just all kind of falling into the right spot, being realigned. And you know, you should know that you're making people really proud, you know, living people, and you know, your guides on the other side. I feel like just people are proud of you for trying so hard, going after so many things, and doing what you've been doing, because it hasn't been easy. Hasn't been easy to make recent life adjustments, to get back on your feet, to go down new paths, try something new. But you know, all things considered, I feel like it's like you're doing a really good job, best that you can. So you should be proud of yourself for that. You know what? That is a really heavy crystal. Okay. This one is a million times lighter. Another heart-shaped one, though. So your heart chakra. I feel like right now, there's a conscious effort to strengthen your heart chakra. And that's really promising to feel. But I think I told you last time, this is the chakra where you've got the most negativity stored, kind of taken on the most damage with the most blockages. And yeah, there's a really good energy, like, you know, you're really consciously trying to shift that, which is great, but there's still a lot of stale negative energy. But, you know, the change is just beginning. You know, you're at the start of a long process of really clearing that out, healing, moving past that. But it's good to see the intention to really cause that shift is already there. So I feel like, you know, you don't want that negativity. You really want to make the effort to let go and remove all those past attachments, negative memories and emotions. You know, very strong will towards that right now. It's going to be your hardest chakra to clear because it's very blocked by old energies. Any emotions that you hold on to, you know, anger, resentment, regret, heartache, disappointment, grief, all of these things block the heart. But, you know, even though there's a lot of blockages like that, you gotta like look for the little holes in the buildup, little spots of light, and always move towards those light spots. Sorry if my voice is like really going already. So I feel like, you know, with like the Reiki stuff you said I could do, you know, that's good, you know, for what it is, but it's also good, it says, because, you know, it's not just for the energy received, but it's good because it shows your own openness and trust to, you know, receiving that energy, opening to kind of a different idea, letting someone else connect to your energy. That's something that really clears your heart, because it's your own intention to receive and be open, connect and be trusting. And the actions that you take are going to clear your chakra more than the actions of others. And you can clear your chakra with your own intentional actions by practicing all the positive traits associated with the heart chakra. Practice patience, forgiveness, grace, generosity. That will show your dedication to healing and improving the chakra. Which doesn't mean you have to do everything on your own. It's still okay to need help and to enjoy support and generosity of others, and that energy you get from others should be supplemental to the one that you create on your own. For the chakra to function optimally, it involves both give and take. Reciprocity is very important to the heart chakra and to the energetic system as a whole. That's what makes you feel best about yourself, right? To have both, to know that you give and you're a giving person, but also to feel secure in what you receive. It says not to be afraid to make the first move and to give before receiving. Because when we give before receiving, that shows our intent to the universe and, just to others on their conscious level. It shows the intent to be a giving person, and also shows other people the kind of person that you are, the kind of person you want to be. And, ideally, what you want to be is an open, giving, loving, helpful person who shares that heart energy easily. And then your great-grandfather that I mentioned a few minutes ago, he says that you should know that we always get what we give, even if it's not where or when we think we're going to receive it back. And that if you feel right now that maybe you've started giving a lot, putting in the effort more, but you're not receiving very much right now, then that could be because of a karmic debt. In the past, in earlier stages of your life, if you used to take much more than you gave, then you would be in karmic debt, and you kind of have to work in the present right now to repay it. And when those things even out, then when you've repaid the debt, then there's like a relief. And then you start to see even give and take again. And you're going to notice much more receiving benefits. But it shows maybe you received a lot more in the past than you were willing to also give. And all things in the universe are in order. And when there's a debt, you have to take the time to repay it. But it says you shouldn't take that as criticism. Just an assurance that all things are, work in balance. And you're coming out of the dark and into the light by evening out all of that karma. And, the more you work through it, pay it off, the more you leave negativity, the darkness, the past, and the more you come into the brightness of the present and the future. And it's just going to unburden you, lighten the heart chakra, remove feelings of guilt that I feel are very stuck in your heart. Like maybe that the way you acted towards people wasn't always selfless or positive, and that you have been, someone who takes a lot in certain respects, and that you didn't always reciprocate. It says even though, it might be hard to go through the readjustment now, it's worth the effort, worth any sort of pain to clear the chakra. Because then it just removes so much negativity and gives you space to open up to only positivity in the future. And when I was talking about this, and also when I started talking about the throat chakra, which came next, I was feeling like what I think is heartburn. Burning sensation going up chest through the throat. So I wonder maybe if you ever experience like a heartburn feeling, either just randomly or when you're stressed, upset. Because it's in the energy. Sorry, I keep pausing. It's really thirsty today. Okay. So moving on, we've got the throat chakra. And you have to make sure you're not restricting in the throat chakra. Don't restrict your feelings, communicate, especially when you feel you've been wronged. And just know that it's okay to feel anger and negative emotions towards the way that you're treated, the way that people seem to be directing their energy towards you. You shouldn't feel like you have to swallow anger and take bad treatment or anything. And it says that you're going to have to confront certain relationships in your life in the next couple years and either straighten them out or let them go if they just continue to be unhealthy, not beneficial towards you. And it's going to be easier for you to settle your emotions and prevent unnecessary outbursts towards other people or in random situations when you've removed the source of that anger, really confronted what's really eating at you. Because, your throat chakra coils and blocks when people put negativity on you constantly for years. And, if certain people make you feel really belittled, negatively provoked, not, taken advantage of, not valued, they make you feel that way for months or years, then they create a blockage towards everybody, and you can't relax and be vulnerable with other people who aren't the ones that put that on you. And it limits the way you can interact with all people. Finally admitting when someone isn't good for you, when they're abusive or treat you poorly, or just constantly make you feel bad about yourself, that removes the block. And it says it can be hard to admit sometimes with certain people, especially when those people are close to you. But, eventually sometimes you have to say, enough is enough. And recognize people and situations, recognize everything for what they are. And when you see truth and you're willing to admit it to yourself and to others, and that creates a clearer path between the throat chakra and the third eye chakra. Opens everything up in the upper chakras. Okay. So third eye chakra. Again, I keep telling you, I see it's very powerful, but at the moment it's like it's stagnating due to you not really wanting to open up that energy yet, which delays your potential in this area. I know I've said it a million times, and you're probably sick of hearing it, but it says again, you should really start trying with the energy connection stuff I was telling you about, because it's going to allow energy to flow through you naturally, and that puts your whole body in alignment when it's working the way it's intended. It's like you're meant to be this purifying energetic channel, and for everything to be able to run through you like that. I also see that it could help clear your headaches. It might give you headaches at first to try it out, because people always strain when they're new at things, when they don't know exactly how to do it, or they're unsure of themselves, and a lot of that strain is just self-doubt sometimes. But quickly it's going to allow for a flow that pushes stagnant energy out and clears your head. And you shouldn't see it, trying this sort of psychic thing. You shouldn't see it as a burden or become nervous to try it. There's just no need for trepidation, because it says, it's meant for you. It's something that you're meant to be doing, something that you're naturally gifted in. And there's never any need to fear our gifts in this life, to worry about the impact of embracing them. Because, we're all uniquely designed to bear different abilities and to have different destinies. Another person may not be built to handle that sort of energy influx I'm talking about, but you are. So you don't have to worry about it, because it's not going to cause energetic problems. It's going to put things more in alignment than they are now. I also see it could give you vivid dreams that could be either very emotionally revealing or psychic predictive dreams. And in general, I just think it would help you sleep better. When you open up the head chakras, stuff like that becomes easier. And another very interesting thing I was seeing with the third eye is that when you open the third eye, it improves your reflexes. And that might be related to like a fitness goal of yours. When the third eye chakra is open, then you're very in tune with what's going on within you and around you, very intuitive. And it's like you're able to premeditate other people's movements and act very quickly and instinctually in response. And, in that way, like the third eye actually improves the sacral chakra as well. And that puts, the mind and the body into harmony. So if that's sort of like a fitness goal you're working on, to be more balanced, more in tune. Specifically, I wrote down reflexes. It's working on third eye. Anything related to third eye, opening, charging, energy, flowing through like that, it's going to greatly improve fitness and reflexes and elevate you above other people going for the same thing, because it gives you that upper hand. And if you're working at something like that, you're going to improve very quickly and rise up, through the ranks of whatever you're working on. And that's going to happen because, everything in the body, in the mind, and the soul is linked. So you open a channel one place, and it's going to connect to something else in the system. Okay, now I want to ask you about something. I don't usually ask you specific questions when I do things, but the whole time when I was writing that down about reflexes, fitness, alignment of the mind and body, I kept seeing triangles. Like, at first I thought not important, but it kept coming back. Like, I could not stop seeing the symbol of a triangle. And I thought, that's interesting for a couple reasons. We know, like, structurally, the triangle is the strongest shape. It can bear the most weight. Architecturally, they use a lot of triangles. So, if you're looking to build strength and balance, then that would make sense as a shape. And also interesting that the last thing that came up was the idea that everything in the mind, the body, the soul is linked. Because, mind, body, soul, that's a triad. 3 sides like a triangle. And a triangle could be representative of that concept. But I also want to know, I'm curious if that's something very literal. You haven't mentioned kind of what you're doing fitness-wise, what sort of activities or practices, whatever that involves. But I would be really curious to know if you know the answer to this. Does anything you do actually involve the shape of a triangle as a symbol, as a logo, as some sort of concept, mantra of anything that you're practicing right now, physically, or anything that you're interested in getting into. I guess there's something with a triangle, because I feel so strongly that it has to do with something, and it might relate to those concepts I mentioned, mind, body, soul triad, just balance and strength, of something with 3 sides. Anything like that. If you see triangles anywhere you go, and you practice anything physical like that, let me know if that makes sense. If not, I'm going to start Googling things, because, that was just coming up in such a big way. Anyway. Okay, lastly, I'm going to look at the crown chakra. In the crown chakra, I feel very positive for you right now. I think you're actually more open here than ever. And, any curiosity about spirituality allows our guides to enter really strongly through the crown and to be closer than ever. And I feel like your guides are really trying hard to give you a sense of peace, to reassure you at this time where you got so much going on and the energy is kind of chaotic, all over the place, bouncing around your system. I'm trying to let that peace in. And if you consciously focus on opening... Oh, hold on, this way too far. If you focus consciously on opening the crown chakra, the top of the head, actively trying to feel that connection, that sense of peace, let that light in, you're going to be able to bring awareness to that peace and to feel that calming, soothing sense of things so much easier. It's really going to let it in. And I think this is another chakra of yours that's going to open with practice, along with the third eye, the most spiritual chakras, the ones that deal most with the other side, with the universe. And when it opens more, you're going to feel much more zen, calm, collected in every situation, and just in the direction your life's going in. As when we're connected heavily to the universe, we gain a sense of certainty in our fate. And we know that everything's good and everything is as we need it to be. And we never actually need any more than we have in the moment. And understanding that process shows that there's really no urgency and there's no loss in the universe. Everything is as it should be to prepare us for our future, to help us in the present. And we're always being given what our soul is craving, and we're always breaking away from what it does not want. We never lose anything because it's something that the soul actively pushed away. And we don't really want for anything, because anything that we desire is given to us in the moments that we truly desire it on our deepest soul level, and that it will be the most aligned with us to give us what we need in the moment. Nothing in this world arrives too late or leaves too early. It's always in perfect timing. It's always exactly what we need to learn and grow in the moment. Because the universe meets us where we are. And everything that we receive is in alignment with what we are willing to accept. And what we are willing to open up to in the moment. And when things seem bad, that just says something about the soul in the moment and what it's clinging on to and what lessons it still needs to learn in order to elevate and get beyond that and let go of the unhappiness and to bring in something better, something bigger that's already meant for us. We just have to meet it on that higher plane so that it can find us in the moment. We have to raise our vibration to a higher frequency in order to get things that are a higher frequency and are going to make us feel better in our lives instead of make us feel like we're weighed down. And when we understand all of these things, it just brings a complete sense of calm and understanding. And then it's easier to let go of strong emotions, overreactions, and just to feel okay and grounded in the moment and accepting even if a situation is not what we think we want it to be. There's acceptance and the knowledge that it's what it has to be. And that it's all going to work out in the best of ways. And if we don't think we're where we want to be in the moment, we're getting there. Piece by piece, step by step. We're always moving towards something. And the last thing I wanted to say was, I gave you a message a while ago that I thought was from your grandmother's guides. And again, this time I see more clearly. She's got a guide around her own grandmother, she says. That she's very strongly watching over her at the moment. And, I see her connected to your own crown chakra. But she just seems to want you to be aware that she's there. She's around. And acting as a guide to your grandmother. Anyway. That's all. Hope that all resonates. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you know about if there's like a triangular symbol related to anything, any practice, something to do with fitness, gym, whatever. So I'm very curious about that. But besides that, we are done.